RMT, and we're thrilled to have that. We're going to be looking at the topic.
Carolee, sorry to interrupt, hon. We need to, oh, you are recording. Never mind.
I'm recording. I just started it.
She recorded.
Okay.
Yep.
Glad you thought of it.
Nope, I had my eye on
Amanda,
that
to
as
the
well.
cloud, right?
Right.
It should go to the cloud.
It's on my computer. I'll just send it to you. Is that all right?
Send it to Lala.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So we've got it recorded, and we're going to be talking today about how to keep young singers singing in our choruses and at least welcoming them in and then keeping them there. So without further ado, Amanda and Gail, you're on.
Thanks, Carolee. I'm so excited to see so many people here. This is a really important topic, and the fact that you're all willing to learn is really great, because the only way our art form will live on past our generations is if we get young women. So it's definitely a team effort. So I'm very excited to see so many people wanting to learn about it. Gail and I aren't pros, but we're going to just talk about what we know and what has worked in our chorus. And speaking for me, I've grown up in barbershop. So some of the things that I've learned and what I've liked and what I haven't. So Gail, you want to say anything?
Yeah, so well, Coastline has always been fortunate since day one of our existence to have a pretty large youth population. And that's always been it's always impacted our chorus culture in many different ways over the years. In the beginning, it was sort of like a little chaotic because there were so many high school girls that were like, you know, in the hallway crying over who knows what and all that stuff. That all went away pretty quickly as they became dedicated to the art form and used to the, not that any of them were undisciplined in their academic lives. In fact, the opposite was true, but they became used to what I would think of as Sweet Adeline discipline and etiquettes. And we've just enjoyed a steady stream of talented, smart, dedicated young women all of these years, Amanda being the first one. I've known Amanda since she's 8. And the only person that's here that's known no longer is her mom. And but I think I'm going to let her lead this because she's the living proof of it all. But to talk about, as she said in her intro, you know, the things she likes, the things she's not liked, what inspired her to stay, what almost made her go, and the kinds of things that we had to do as musical and administrative leadership in our chorus to I don't want to say to cater to young women, but to consider them in a different way than members who are much more mature.
All right, here's our presentation. Can everyone see it? Awesome. So this is how to get and keep young singers in your chorus. You're going to see a lot of pictures of me and my Coastline girlfriends because that's all the pictures I've got. So you've probably already seen them from Facebook. So first, I'm going to talk about myself, which I love to do. I joined Coastline when I was 9 officially, but I was introduced to barbershop thanks to my mom when I was 6. And I've been going to rehearsals for Coastline since I was 6. So when my parents got divorced, my mom was looking for a hobby. She saw a Coastline commercial, went to a rehearsal, and didn't want to pay for a babysitter. She's on this call, so Leanne, don't jump in because this is the history I decided. No, that's what happened. So she didn't want to pay for a babysitter. And so Coastline was my babysitter. So I would sit in the guest seats and I learned all the music and all of the choreography just by watching and did my homework out there. And I really loved it. And that was around the time that Coastline was getting better and better, doing better at regional. And then we had one when I was 9 and we're heading to our first international. This was 2003. So at that point, Gail had said, hey, you know all the music, why don't you join us? And so I did. And I've been in Coastline ever since. This is my 18th year as a Sweet Adeline, and I'm 27. Sorry, my cats are meowing. And I stuck with it through grade school, through high school. And it was tough in high school and college to stick with it. Obviously, having weekly rehearsals it can be grueling, as you all know, especially when you're younger too, and you have sports and friends and people are hanging out after school and you want to do that instead of going to rehearsal with a bunch of old ladies. But what ultimately made me stick around and continue with this wasn't only my mom forcing me to and saying I couldn't quit, but I formed friendships with those ladies. And it's like how obviously it's like having a chorus of a group of 60 moms, but I never felt like that. They're all my friends, and I never felt, well, when I was younger, I did feel like some of them were parenting me, but that's just human nature. But I looked at them as friends, and that's how I stuck around, was the friendships I made. I didn't want to give that up. So that's why I stuck with it. I went on to sing in a couple quartets, Soundarella with some Region 1 girls you might recognize on this left picture. We placed pretty high in Rising Star. And then I started singing another quartet, Adrenaline. We won Rising Star. And if you're not familiar, Rising Star is the youth contest in Sweet Adelines. And that was just an amazing experience, a dream come true. And that competition is so important for young singers. And I really hope that in our Young Women in Harmony program, we can eventually form another youth quartet and send them to future Rising Stars. That would be awesome.
Coastline was so proud, you would have thought that we actually were responsible for that quartet winning Rising Star. And I guess in some way we were, but we all took it as, a matter of pride that here was our Amanda, quote unquote, and look what she's doing, and just felt very proud of that moment. But the reality is, as you all know, if any of you have quartetted, it takes a lot of work and a lot of personal commitment and a lot of personal drive to not only stick with it, but accomplish things.
I'm not sure if you can see my mouse, but this picture in the fuchsia, the blue and pink tunic, that was my first international. Pigtails, glasses. You can see me in all of my awkward stages through all of Coastline's performances. This one far to the right is one of our later internationals. I was up on the risers, eventually made it to the front row. I stood in a box for my first couple internationals because I was too short and they couldn't see me over the people in front of me. So I had to stand in a box so that I could be tall enough. This is me in the middle, working with Adrenaline as teaching quartets at, we've been the teaching quartet at a few different youth camps, which has been really awesome. I'm sure you've all heard of Harmony Explosion Camp Northeast. That was me last summer with my lead section. So we've been able to do, after winning a lot of youth outreach and doing a lot of camps, which has been really rewarding and has really sort of made me even more passionate about getting young women involved in this hobby. And there's me webcasting. I've gotten to do that because I talk for a living. They were like, hey, let's mix the two things. So yeah.
Can I just say something about Harmony Explosion Camp here, Amanda? I'm sure that most of you, if not all of you, are aware of that. It's a BHS sponsored event. Hi, Brenda, how are you? It's a BHS sponsored event that happens all over the United States. Every district does one. They're hugely successful. They attract lots of young men and young women. And Region 1, I think, thanks to Patty's involvement and Carol Lee's involvement and several of us that are involved in Harmony Explosion Camp, it's really grown quite a bit in New England. And when we can all get back together again, which has become like a famous start of lots of sentences, I would encourage all of you to go, even if it's just for the day or the Saturday night show, to see what can happen when you open the door.
And I say, we always need chaperones. You can sign up as a chaperone.
Yeah, it's a great event. It's very, as Amanda said, it's very rewarding. And it's, as my old director, Renee Craig, said, we have to grow our own. This is the farm, and we're growing future Sweet Adeline. So as a result, we need to invest in those young women.
Yep. And Harmony Explosion Camp is put on by BHS, but Region 1 and Harmony Inc. are heavily involved in it. I hope to put on a regional event in that way in the future, some summer that we can actually be face to face. So I hope to do that. I'm going to pass over to Gail.
Yep. And so one of the things that was successful for us, and a little bit was for us happenstance, is there was a music educator here in Rhode Island, Rick Lepore, whose wife, Julie, and I were good friends from a different Sweet Adeline chorus. And when she and Rick got together, she relocated here. And Rick had taught in the same school system in Cranston, Rhode Island, his whole career. And he called me one day and said he had this woman who had graduated from his high school program, gone to college, sang in a chorale or show choir in college, and called him when she graduated to say, I don't know what to do now. I've spent my whole life singing in organized choruses. I have nowhere to go. And so he sent her to us. And that wound up opening up this, what we call the Rick Lepore pipeline. He just kept sending us young women, some of whom stuck, some of whom didn't stick, some of whom went on to be quartetters, some of whom relocated and joined other choruses. But we had this constant flow of, 17, 18, 19, 20-year-olds, 16-year-olds. And we had to, as a chorus, even though we had younger women, we had to adjust our way of running business. We immediately gave those young women a dues reduction for chapter dues. So you pay half, right, Amanda? You paid half.
Well, not anymore.
Not anymore, but you did pay half. And just like I had to allow for the fact that, as Amanda said, she sat there and learned all the music and choreography without even doing it. Well, that's what happens to these young women, is that they sort of learn it walking by it, and then can be bored at rehearsal if you're going over things way too often, because they got it the first time. And so there's a balancing act between people who need more time to learn and those young women. So variety in rehearsal is critical. I've taught this particular class at IES for years, and I used to always say, you make allowances for your snowbirds. What's the difference? It's just the other end of the spectrum. And your snowbirds may not come back nearly as prepared as some 16-year-old who came to rehearsal for an hour and aced everything. And so you have to, not only as musical leaders, but infuse that into your course culture to allow that to happen, to make it viable, to make it possible. So even if these young women don't stick around because they go off to university or they get a job transfer, this is now part of hopefully their musical DNA for the rest of their lives, and they'll pop up somewhere.
Awesome, thank you. So this is separated into two chunks: getting young singers and then keeping them. So here's where we came up with for getting young singers. Community outreach, having good social media, and making connections with local music educators are the three big things. Community outreach, obviously, take this all with a grain of salt because of COVID, but when life is normal, having shows, being out in the community, having your community just aware that you're there. We rehearse in Attleboro, Massachusetts, and that community is very well aware that we are there. We're at their Memorial Day events. We try to be very involved in the community, and that is really great, and it just gets your name out there. Holding member drives, I'm sure you all do that. If you can afford it, commercials on TV, whether it be local access or your local news, it's a great way for people to see your chorus and get your name out there. Post ads in places where young people hang out, coffee shops, just malls, different places, to just get them to see that you're doing this cool thing just down the street. Attend performances for other musical groups. I'm sure there are other, whether it be instrumental or voice, there are other groups in your communities doing similar things. It's not barbershop, but those are people that love music, and you can get them to join your chorus. Even if they don't end up joining, just invite them to a show. That's something later this month. Why don't you go? And maybe, sorry.
Okay.
My AirPods. Hang on one sec.
In the meantime, I will say that one of the key factors, if you go into an educational system, whether it be high school or college level, is to make it very clear to the music educators involved that this is not a recruitment effort on our part. This is an educational effort on our part. We just want to educate people who are interested in singing, interested in choral style music, maybe interested in a cappella, that this is an option that's out there someday when they're ready. Because there are many music educators that, they're sort of at the bottom of the food chain a lot of times in school systems in terms of priority. And they can be very protective of their students and their courses. And the idea of some kid getting recruited away from them is pretty scary. So to just make sure that you offer this as an educational opportunity, whether it's a 1-hour thing and you give them free tickets to your next show, or they get some CDs of international champions or things of that nature, to offer that so that someday they come walking in your door or somebody's door because they remembered this experience and it was positive.
Right. The other big thing is social media, posting religiously to all platforms. If you have a Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, obviously, you know this, young people spend a lot of time on their phones, on tablets, on computers, and that's a really easy way to get eyes on your chorus. Tagging locations, if you're singing at an event, tag that event. when I go somewhere, I look at the Instagram location to see what it looks like. That's just an easy way for people to find you. And especially young people, post all of your performances on YouTube, make small groups, post videos, because we spend a lot of time on YouTube, and that's a really great way for people to find barbershop that's beyond the Sweet Adeline's account, Barbershop Harmony Society account. You know, make a page for your chorus and post a lot. Make your chorus an Instagram account. Use sites like Meetup. I'm sure a lot of your choruses have tried this in the past. I know it's worked out for a lot of people. Post your rehearsals on there and get people to RSVP in that way. And interact with your followers. If you see someone young follow you, reach out to them. Be like, hey, you found us. Like, this is what we're doing this week. We're holding a rehearsal. Why don't you come join us? Interacting with people is really important. And the more you interact, the more your posts are seen. You see, if on Facebook with their algorithm, if you have more comments, more people see it. That's just a way that it works. So collect email. Sorry, go ahead, Gail.
Go ahead, Amanda. No, go ahead.
No, I was moving on to collect emails. So if you want to say something on that point.
Oh, okay, just one quick comment. Years ago, I sang in a quartet for a short amount of time called Who's the Boss? And the lead baritone tenors combined ages were my age. And they wanted to, before really getting into college, because they were all still just getting out of high school and starting college, they wanted to compete once. And so, of course, the voice part that's always lacking for younger voices, generally speaking, is bass. So I switched to bass and sang with them, and we competed, came in the top 10. They were all excited. But the lead singer was studying opera at Rhode Island College. And the next year, and we continued to sing, although we didn't compete again. The next year, her voice teacher at the university contacted me to ask if we could come in and do a 45-minute class for all the other singers, because Sarah's breathing had improved so dramatically in the year and a half that she was in the chorus and singing in a quartet, that she wanted to somebody come in and talk about the differences between what some singers do for breathing and what we do for breathing. Now, those young women are out of barbershopping, and that's perfectly fine. And I don't know that anyone came in the door from that event, but it was an opportunity for us to show off a skill that we have that we don't often consider that we have, which is normally our ability to breathe.
Mm-hmm. And
Amanda, we do have a question too,
go ahead.
if you would. Is it worth paying for sponsored Instagram posts?
I think it is. If your chorus can afford paying for sponsored posts, whether it be on Instagram or Facebook, I would say it depends on the audience you want. Instagram is a younger audience, and Facebook is not very popular when it comes to younger people, but we're still on there. I would say it's worth any investment like that, yeah, to get people to see your stuff more. And we'll have Q&A at the end also, by the way. I just want to make sure to say that.
Thank you.
I saw someone else raise their hand. Do you want to wait to the end?
Lala has her hand up.
Sorry, I can't see anyone.
I won't talk long. I want to say something while you said that. When you do a sponsored whatever, you can tailor your audience. So you can tailor it to like age 18 to 40 or 8, whoever you're trying to get into your chorus. So that's a really good way to use that tool. I just wanted to say.
Yeah, no, that's good to know. I'm too cheap to ever pay for a sponsored post, so I didn't know that. And when you have member drives, collect emails. Obviously, I'm sure you all do that, but collect people's emails, even if you're just meeting someone out in the community. Add them to your newsletter. My mixed chorus has a newsletter that we send out once a month. We use MailChimp. It's a free way to do things, and send newsletters often, so that people are always thinking of you. You're always top of mind for them because you're in their inbox. Gail touched on this, but making relationships with local music educators is so vital, because they have all of these young singers in their classrooms that are going to move on to the real world, and they're going to move past their collegiate singing or high school singing groups, and they're going to wonder what's next. Like, where do I sing that's not at my educational institution? And so you can offer them an avenue. Like, this is something you can do for the rest of your life, which is really awesome. And a lot of, unfortunately, music educators are not on the barbershop train. So sometimes you got to get them on the train first to talk their singers into doing it. A lot of music educators.
You call them, Amanda? Would you call them directly, or Because I've gotten nowhere with emailing.
Gotcha. I would say, yeah, whatever you can do. I'm a news reporter, so I harass people for a living. So I would call,
You're
email.
comfortable with that.
Oh yeah. And go to their events. I mean, if they're holding some sort of community event with their group, go up to them and be like, hey, I see what you're doing here. I wanted to know if you would like to attend our event or something like that. Anything
Yeah.
at that point?
And
Gail?
yep. And I was going to say, going to somebody else's event and just saying, you know, you all know that your connection to your chorus community is critical to your life. And we're more aware of that now than I think we may have ever been before. And anyone who's sung in a choral group, high school, college, whatever, there's still that community connection. And that's what people miss when they get out of those levels of school. And that's really the thing I think in many ways presents at the forefront, is that we're just looking to present options for the new singing community. And Rick Lepore said to me, the first teacher that kind of pipelined it, he said, I want these singers to keep singing. That's all I care about, is I really want them to keep singing because they're good, or it made a difference in their lives, or it helped them turn themselves around, or whatever the rationale is. And that's a great philosophy to keep.
Definitely. Ellen, I saw your hand raised.
Yeah, I'm in another women's service organization, and our young, when we're trying to keep young people in this group as well, and the comment made by one of our younger members was, young people don't go on Facebook. So is that different for young singers? This is the group I'm thinking about is it's a service organization. So
Yeah, that's why I mentioned Instagram, because Instagram is still cool right now. Facebook's not.
Our group did just start an Instagram because that comment was made. So
yeah, Instagram is really good. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, I was gonna say we use Facebook and we started this Instagram. Is there any other? Would you do anything on TikTok or?
Yeah, I mean, TikTok is one of the more up and coming apps, and I've seen a couple quartets make accounts and post some tags. It's getting really popular, and that's a really good avenue, and you can post some singing videos there. Twitter also, and Instagram, using the hashtags and locations and stuff like that, for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Sorry if you can hear the wind in my apartment. It's very windy in the city here today. So moving on to keeping your young singers. One of the biggest things I heard from my friends who didn't grow up in barbershop like I did, they sort of discovered it in college or after college, was the lingo, all of the words that we use and the phrases that they don't understand. If you start using like diphthongs, and I can't think of any at the moment, but using barbershop heavy words that you learn just in your barbershop career that regular people don't know, it's going to make those young people feel like they're not a part of the club. So we have something in Coastline called Coastline College. So when someone is new, they go through our Coastline College course, which is just teaching them about barbershop, the history of barbershop, and what we do in Coastline, how much it costs, our costuming, all of that. They learn it all at once so that they are clued into what this is all about. I would say give them a crash course in barbershop the second they're interested. If they're interested in joining your chorus, you want to make sure that they're aware of everything that goes on, so they don't feel left out, you know?
Yeah, I'm very lucky in my chorus because I'm notorious for using lingo and not explaining what I'm talking about. And some simple things like, let's take it from the top, that doesn't mean anything to someone who's not done what we do. So I trust some of my music team people to raise their hand and say, Gail, could you explain what that means for some of our members who may not know? And it's excellent because I'll just plow along. I appreciate that reminder because it is important.
Yep.
I mean, I joined a long time ago, but I learned everything by myself, just sort of figured it out. And that really shouldn't happen.
Yep. The next thing is song selection. If you're singing all old-fashioned barbershop tunes, they are beautiful and they're great to have in your rep, and a lot of people do appreciate them. But if you're trying to get younger members into your chorus, sorry, I have cats all over my legs. singing songs that are current, and I know it's easier said than done, but singing some more current tunes, whether it be in the 80s, 90s, even the 70s, like some of more well-known modern songs, it's going to make those girls want to sing the music, you know. Gail, you want to say anything to that point?
Yeah, particularly if it's something they already know the words to, or their parents listen to on the radio, it makes it more current and relevant. And once somebody gets hooked in, and this is at least has been my experience all along, once someone gets hooked in, like I'll use Amanda as the example because she's here, when you say this is a strong contest song and we want to win, we want to score well, we want to, whatever our goal is, that gets understood very quickly. So it doesn't become a problem of singing something from several decades ago when it has a purpose. It only is a problem when it's all that you sing. And so it's really important now, as Karina said in her last class, with Sheet Music Plus, it's really easy. I mean, you have to do the research, but it's really easy to find lots of more contemporary music, not necessarily barbershop, and that's okay. It's a cappella, and it doesn't cost necessarily an arm and a leg. But to incorporate some of that, particularly when we can get back to performing in public, that you can showcase other things that you do. We've always, when we've done shows, whether it's a stage production or a local performance, I always have some younger women in the chorus do some of the MC work. Even if it's not their strong suit, it puts them out in front of the microphone. It gets the audience to see that everybody shares in the experience. And if you're not sure about contemporary music, just ask. You know, say to your Amandas or whoever you have in your chorus, if you could pick a song for the chorus, what would it be? And I guarantee you, they're going to have a list of suggestions that they would like to sing. And maybe it won't be your strongest piece, and maybe it will be your most popular piece. But it's worth that research, and it's very worth asking the question.
Yep. The next point is something Gail touched on earlier. Don't over-rehearse them. Obviously, before contests, we're singing the same 2 songs over and over and over again, perfecting it, because that's what we do, right? But it gets old really fast. I would say make your rehearsals interesting, diverse when it comes to your repertoire. Stick songs in there that you don't sing that often. Just make it different so that people's attention spans, so you're not losing them. Yeah, go ahead, Gail.
Something that I don't think that this is on here, and I'm sorry if I jumped ahead before, but something that I had to learn honestly the hard way, and I thank Jim Arns for this, is allowing in the rehearsal downtime, breaks, 5-minute breaks. Go walk around, go talk to your friend. Might take 8 minutes instead of 5, because we never did that for years and years. We had a 5-minute business meeting, and that was that. And I learned from him, because he was a smoker, he wanted to go out for a cigarette, that those 5-minute or 10-minute breaks have made the world of difference in people's stamina, in their interest, in the socialization of our membership, which is critically important. And for these younger women who got it, last week, it kind of shakes everybody up and is a refresher. So I don't know how many directors, if any directors are here, but if you're just involved in your leadership, or just have a director who's open to suggestion, which I think most of ours are, is to suggest that if the style has not been, let's take a 5-minute break and just, not a business meeting, just go walk around, get off the risers, talk to your friends. It doesn't dilute the concentration. It doesn't dilute the focus of the evening. It actually heightens it. And it took me way too many years to buy into that, quite honestly.
And put a group activity in there. I mean, people stick in choruses because they have friends and they've made close ties, and you don't make relationships standing on the riser singing the same 2 songs. Put in group activities. Like, I know it's bordering on a sorority, but that sort of thing is important, and providing avenues for people to make those relationships. The next thing, easier said than done, I know, costuming. Think about your costumes and picture young women in them. Obviously, it's an overall thing. In my opinion, Sweet Adelines is a little bit behind the ball on the costuming. I think that a lot of the costumes are very old-fashioned, and I wouldn't want to post an Instagram in some barbershop costumes, I'm going to be honest. But it's an overall thing. I would say try to pick looks that look good on everyone, but also aren't too farty looking. This is a tough subject because people have different opinions, but even when you're doing casual sing outs, that's something that you have more control over. I know when we're in contest settings, you're trying to get those points, and so you want to look the part. But when you're out doing casual sing outs, don't be in full head to toe pancake makeup, because say you're singing at a mall, a young person comes up to you and they're like, whoa, this lady has a lot of makeup on, she's got a lot of sequins on. It's not very welcoming, if you know what I mean. Try to just look like your regular selves, look uniform. Obviously, like sometimes Coastline will do sing outs, we'll just wear all black with a pop of color, or black and red, a mix of stuff. Like, let people dress how they want to dress and show their personalities. I think one of the biggest image issues in Sweet Adelines is the makeup and costuming, and a lot of that comes from people doing informal sing outs in their stage outfits, and it's just not if I was a young person who had no idea what barbershop is, I'd be like, I'm not joining that. They look like clowns. You know. Go ahead, Gail.
Yeah, one of the good things that's happening in our organization, as I'm sure you're all aware of, even if you haven't had a chance to read it, is the change from the showmanship category to the visual communication title. And it's a lot of, the changes aren't radical, but they are. So for example, instead of the category being broken down to 30%, which was preparation, and 70%, which was performance, it's just 100%. Mm-hmm. And so what that's doing, and we talked about this in an earlier session somewhere, my choreographer's luncheon, is taking the importance away from what Amanda's talking about. All the sequins, the heavy makeup, still striving for unity, but giving lots more license and having that be, if not rewarded, not taken, not bothered. Nobody bothers with it. So if you go out onto YouTube and look for Diablo Vista Chorus, who won the Harmony Classic in New Orleans, or Vocal Dimension Chorus, I think it was at one of their regionals. It's a smaller chorus also. They've been at Harmony Classic. They wore, and Diablo Vista did it great, they wore their own black, sequiny, not sequiny, pants, skirt, doesn't make any difference. But it all, for whatever I guess because it was well planned, it really gelled, and it was a very, very strong look. They have a big youth population because their director is very young. And it was a very strong look while giving everybody a chance to be themselves. You know, they ticked all the boxes for, more uniform makeup and all that stuff, but everybody got to be how they wanted to be within the context of that unit. And I think it contributed to a very strong performance. And I think we will be seeing more and more of that because of what Amanda's talking about and the cost of things. We've, as a chorus, had very few costumes over the years because I don't think it's all that important. As long as everybody looks okay, we're good. I've been in choruses where we got a new costume every time we turned around. That's not practical. People can't afford it. It turns people off. And generally speaking, it's not worth it. So that's critical. And Amanda's right. If, my first Sweet Adeline chorus experience was a chorus my mom was in, and I was sitting in the balcony, so I couldn't see all the makeup. This was in the 70s. And when I went to my first chorus rehearsal, it was just a rehearsal. Nobody was wearing makeup, or, it was just a normal rehearsal. And I didn't know about all that stuff until it was too late. And it's always been the element, I've been in for 46 years. It's always been the element of what we do that I don't enjoy. It's that one thing that I do it because I want the points, but I'm glad to see the category, I think, loosening that, which is a positive thing for us.
Yep. The other point in keeping young members is the cost. Going through school, high school, college, I have a lot of friends that love singing, but they're not in barbershop because they just can't justify the cost. For everyone, it's expensive to live now, even more so for millennials, people in my generation. We have so much student loan debt. We're living on our own in cities with extremely high rent. It's hard to justify paying this much for a hobby. So I would say I'm very lucky growing up with my mom in my chorus because she pays the bills. I don't know if I would have been able to afford it. Make it clear to members under 25 that there's a youth price. Say that right off the bat. It's not much of a discount, but at least it's a discount. And for maybe your older 20 somethings, or even if they can't afford the youth price, create a fund. Coastline has the Angel Fund where no questions asked. We pay for your trip to international. We pay for whatever you need at that time, no questions asked. And members pay into that fund, and our management team puts money into that fund for that reason. Or if you have some, we have someone in our chorus, I'm sure you do too, women who are very well off and have disposable income, and they want to help their chorus and they want to make it easier for youth members to join their chorus. Make some sort of program like Sponsor a Youth. Have one woman be like, oh, well, I would love to help Kate or so-and-so in my chorus continue if they're having financial troubles, and have that woman sponsor that person and pay their dues for them. Just a little something that helps, because as we know, the cost is a big thing.
All right.
Amanda and Gail, we have a couple comments I'd like to share.
Okay.
One is that going back to costuming, not everyone identifies with a super feminine look.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Important in today's world, and thinking about costuming and preparation. And then someone else commented that, not to mention the costs on the other end of the spectrum, which are the retirees on a very small fixed income.
Right. It's expensive. But we can help mitigate some of that. We can help mitigate both points, frankly, by, leaning towards a more individualistic look that allows somebody to spend what they can afford to spend. And chorus costume committees or directors not wanting something new to wear every time that you show up in public. It's not important. And we have had several people over the years anonymously sponsor a youth member, or a member for that matter, because they are valuable to the chorus and they just wanted to do that until that person could sort of take it on their own. And that's not only generous, but it's part of the spirit that we hope to engender in our membership, is that if you can help out in some way, please help out in some way.
Mm-hmm. To the feminine look point, I agree. I fantasize about a day when Sweet Adelines doesn't care about what we look like, and they only care about how we sound and the performance we put on.
Yeah,
I fantasize for that day.
Yeah, Harmony Inc. is way ahead of the curve from us in that regard, and then that is not a focal point. It's not that they don't care; it's just not a focal point for their singers. And I've seen some groups that were, for my taste, for stage too casual, but mostly not. And it just allows those singers to present what they do and not how they look.
Yeah, the music is.
I think that's what the shift in the category is trying to bring us more to.
Yeah, it's getting there slowly.
Very slowly.
All right. So the biggest factor in keeping a young singer is your chorus culture, and a positive chorus culture at that. If your chorus is not welcoming to young members, if you have one of those members who thinks, well, I joined this chorus to get away from my kids, or I joined this chorus to get away from my grandkids, or whatever young members you have, or young people rather, you have at home. Some people do have that outlook, and that's fine. But if you want your art form to live on past you, you need to be welcoming to young people. I have met some people who have that outlook, like, I don't want young people in my chorus. I'm here because I want to be with adults, and I have kids at home, which I totally understand that. I mean, I don't have kids, but I sympathize. But it's really the only way we're going to survive. And that's a big thing, is the culture. I love Coastline because it's the only experience I have. I'm sure all of your choruses are amazing, but the chorus culture is great. We are all friends, and no one's mean, and it's just me. And just Gail, and we just ignore her when she's mean. But it's just, that's such an important thing, is having a chorus culture that's welcoming to young people is going to want to make them join you and want to make them stay.
One of my favorite memory that I have from a retreat that we did way in the beginning of our chorus life was we went to some camp, which we got over very quickly, but we went to some camp here in Rhode Island, and which actually was very nice, but most of us were not in the camping mode. And in the rec hall, where we had our after party, they had knock hockey. Am I calling it the right thing? Where you hit the puck across the table with a thing and try to get it into the
Air hockey?
air hockey. Thank you. I knew it was not the right name. And I was so taken at walking through that room and to see, at that time, Jane Moores was with us, and she was like 22. And one of our oldest members, Aldea Cochio, playing fiercely competitive game of air hockey and keeping score. And I thought to myself, where in the rest of the world would that actually happen? Maybe in your own family home in the basement on Thanksgiving Day with your grandparents, but they were playing like equals, like friends. And I thought to myself, I think we're doing some things right here to be able to people feel that that's normal to do.
Yep. Don't see a young person walk through the doors and be a parent to them. They have parents. They have enough superiors in their lives. Be their friend. If I'm walking into a chorus and I don't know anyone and they start mothering me and telling me what to do, I'm not staying, treat them as an equal. They might be many years younger than you, but they want to be your friend, and just it's just about making friendships and making people comfortable.
We have a question, Ellen.
Yeah.
Amanda, you had said during that when Gail mentioned you need to take that 5-minute break periodically, and then you had said maybe plan an activity. So do you have a suggestion on what kind of activity?
Well, I was in a sorority in college. I got tons of icebreakers. If you just Google icebreaker games, there are tons of them.
All right.
Yeah, just different little 5-10 minute games. Maybe like everyone shares, you stand in a circle, or even on the risers, someone shares one thing about their day, or one good thing, one bad thing about their day, or sharing fun facts, or 2 truths and a lie. Just little fun games like that. There's a lot on the internet. I had another point when it came to culture, but now I'm forgetting. Oh, okay. I'm sure you've all seen or felt this, but some choruses can be very exclusive. Being inclusive is really important. Obviously, every chorus has an audition process, but try to not act like you are better than other people. We're all in it for the music, right? Don't start bragging about all of your medals right off the bat, because that's intimidating to people. They're
Right.
like, what, it's hard to explain, but I think you all know what I mean. Just being inclusive to these people. Don't start showing off all your trophies, because we don't care.
Right.
We do care, but yeah.
People will care once it's happened to them,
Mhm.
but they don't care that it happened to you.
Yeah. And someone coming off the street, they're like, I don't know what this is. I don't know what this contest is. Congrats. But, that's not what matters. The music
Right.
and the relationships are what matter.
I think a good point to that is I was young. I was not super young, but I was in my 20s when I joined Sweet Adelines. And even after I'd gone through the audition process and I got the current medal that the chorus was wearing and all that, I was still just like, this isn't. But then I went to my first contest and it clicked. And I think you can't expect someone to understand something they've never experienced. And so while it may be attractive that maybe for some people that's attractive, I think ultimately they don't even understand it. So it shouldn't be, like, I agree with you guys. It shouldn't be the first thing or even the second, third, or fourth thing that you present to them.
Yeah. Definitely brag about it when you're trying to market and advertise, like award-winning chorus right down the street from you, but don't make it your whole being, All right, it's getting a little late, so I'm going to move on. This is one of just the last things I wanted to put in here. I asked a couple young ladies in Region 1 what drew them to their chorus and made them stick around. I'll start with Kate. She's on this call. She's been in Coastline for 5 years. She joined after college. She actually found us on Google, just looking up local choruses. She says, when I walked into my first Coastline rehearsal 5 years ago, I knew I had stumbled upon something special. The liveliness of the chorus, coupled with the sheer talent I was surrounded by, made me realize this was a hobby I definitely wanted to pursue. Fast forward to today, joining Coastline has led me to much musical growth, my lovely quartet past curfew, and the most incredible friendships. Like most barbershop events I've been part of since then, this group welcomed me with open arms from the start, and I've since gained so much love and inspiration. Mariah, who sings with Royal River, she's been with them for 5 years. She says, I had just graduated from college and I was looking for a hobby to take up some of my newfound time. I visited Royal River Chorus and found them to be such an inviting group of women. Inviting, keyword. I remember they placed a chair out in front like I was their only audience member. And as soon as they started singing, I just knew I had to be a part of this group. I was pretty shy and had terrible stage fright. So did I. But they made me feel so welcome that I thought I'd give the audition a go. From day one, I just knew this was a group of women who built each other up and encouraged individuality and confidence. That sentence. I came for music and harmonies unlike anything I had ever heard before, and I stayed for the group of fun, encouraging women who helped me build my confidence higher than ever. People come for the music, but they stay for the friendships and the relationships they make. This last one is Meg Lynch. She's been in Coastline for 8 years. Singing in a competitive chorus is awesome and super fulfilling, but it's really the connections I've made that have kept me here. I've grown lifelong, truly lifelong friendships with women my age and women twice my age alike. I feel valued as a member of the chorus despite my inexperience as a barbershop singer. I'm surrounded by a network of strong, lovely women. And now it's Q&A time.
You can all unmute yourselves.
Amanda, you might want to, and Gail, you might want to address the function of singing tags with these young women when they first hit the floor, because I think surrounding with the music has really, when they first hear that wonderful overtone, seems like they stay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say if you have young women joining, throw them in a quartet real quick, teach them a tag so they get to hear what it's like and what we do every week.
I never sang a tag until I was in Sweet Adelines for probably 12 years, 13 years. Wasn't the culture of the chorus that I joined at all, period. And the first time I did it, I was like, oh, well, now I had 2 international gold chorus medals. And that was an aha moment. Oh, that's what that's supposed to feel like.
Yep.
We have 10 minutes left if there are some other questions, comments, experiences in your own choruses.
I'm happy to talk about myself more. Just kidding.
Margaret.
One thing that I want to put out there, because I'm a high school teacher, so I deal with young person interaction all the time. It's so important to remember that young people have different energy than more senior members of the chorus. And sometimes it's hard for older members to handle that level of energy. And it's not that we older folk, I got to put myself in there now, are not as enthusiastic. We just have different ways of showing it. And I think we need to remember how to receive that enthusiasm too. I think it's really, that it can be a challenge. Definitely.
Yeah, I think it's just about being open-minded, and yeah, I was not an enthusiastic child, so I can't really speak from experience. I was very quiet, shy. I stood there and learned all my music and listened to Gail. But there are really energetic kids. Yeah, it's hard to, it depends also on the age of them, obviously. I would say it's pretty rare for you to get a girl under the age of 10, where I feel like that's, well, maybe like 15, 13 and under, you might get an enthusiastic kid who doesn't want to stand on the risers. But I feel like those are rare unless their mom is in your group. I would say high school age, college age are more likely to be more calm and pay attention. But yeah, that's definitely a struggle.
Right.
Yeah.
Gail, are you sorry?
Go ahead.
Are you modifying the rehearsal, like letting them go home early or anything, like the real young ones?
Yeah, so no, well, right now I don't have anybody that has homework to do, and that's the first. We used to have a study hall room at rehearsal because we had so many girls that needed to do homework. Amanda went home early for a long time because of school. She's not the only person. Abby, who was in the Young Women in Harmony chorus, sings with us at our holiday concert. And when she comes to those rehearsals to rehearse for that concert, because she's a super busy kid, she always leaves, very early. So I just try to tailor the rehearsal so that she or any people like that can get in what they need to get in before they got to go. I've never concerned myself with their ability to keep up. That is not a problem. And I've also learned over the years, and I've talked about this in other classes, that 99% of the girls that I've seen in, I'll just use my chorus, are also academic achievers. They're also usually not in trouble outside of school or home. They're a different, it's like theater kids, it's a different kind of mindset. And they're much more focused than sometimes another teenager without that, I'll call it discipline. I mean, look at Jane Moore's daughter. Thea, how old is Thea? 12, 13 now? She's been in 10, okay.
10 or 11, yep.
Yeah, she's been in theater since she's a little girl. She's super focused and used to the disciplines and rigors of rehearsal and what it takes to accomplish. So my experience is that we attract, if they come and they stay, we're attracting that kind of kid that is able to funnel their energy, but sometimes for a limited amount of time because they're a kid. And you gotta let that go.
Yeah, if they're passing their tapes and they're learning the moves and they're keeping up, make it an open door policy. If you have to go home for school or if you have to sit out and do homework while you're listening, just do it.
Yep, just go do it. Got to do it first. I always said first comes school, then church, then us. So Lala.
I would say an experience that I had that was really positive is a lot of, like Gail saying, young people that are achieving academically in sports and other things tend to be natural leaders. And when they come into a chorus where, because they're young, leadership doesn't want to be passed down to them, even in the smallest fraction, it won't make them leave because that's what they strive for, is to excel. And I was fortunate in Royal River that I was 6 weeks into my chorus experience when our marketing coordinator had to leave due to some family things, and they asked me if I wanted to step in, and I was 6 weeks into my Sweet Adeline's experience. But I worked with the diversity task force on this with the age situation. And there's a lot of stories out there of young people who have amazing ideas and amazing skills, and they're not allowed to do it, and they're discouraged from speaking up because of their age. And so I don't know that that's always done consciously, but I think it's just something to be aware of, that youth doesn't have anything to do with the ability to lead if someone's a natural leader and they have a skill that they're really can bring to the table. So
that's such a great point, Lala. That's such a great point to make. When I joined Ramapo Valley back in the day, I was there for 6, and I'd been to Sweet Adeline for a couple of years prior. I had been there 6 months in this, international award-winning chorus, and Rini wanted me to be chapter president. 6 months. And I wasn't aware at the time, because I tend to be oblivious by nature, that she got a lot of pushback, but she forged ahead anyway. And I was in my 20s, and this was a chorus we won that next international in Philadelphia, and I wound up being president for 5 years. And I had well, first off, I guess it's because how I was. And at that time I worked in corporate life, but it must have been how I came across, I guess. But her philosophy was that she wanted the farm. She wanted new infusion. Everything had to be new all the time. Margaret's nodding, new to the point of, for some of us, of tearing our hair out with newness, but she allowed that to happen and encouraged it to happen, and be damned what other people thought. And I had learned a lot fast in that situation, and found out things that I had to offer that I didn't know I had to offer.
Same here. I was in the chorus, same chorus, 6 months. And was it your fault, Gail? I ended up running the regional convention 6 months later.
Love you, mean it, Margaret.
Yeah, give your young members positions on your board or in the music team or anything, because they'll give a fresh outlook, especially if they didn't grow up in this. They'll give you new perspectives.
Yeah, Kate's our secretary on our management team. Amanda's on the music team and has been on the management team. You know, it's just important to get different perspective. Even if you don't agree with it, it's just a different way. Amanda and Kate are going to look at things differently at 27 or whatever you are, than I am going to look at it at 67. Fact. And I want to hear what they have to say. I may not do it. I may not want to do it, but it's important that I hear what they have to say.
Rude. Just kidding.
That too.
Anyone else have it? Kate, did you have your hand raised?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment. Something that really helped me when I first started was having like a young person that kind of looked out for me. And I had that in Amanda, obviously, and then Martha Horton, who most of you know. And right away, they exchanged numbers with me my first rehearsal. And they said, ask us anything, like, and I was so confused my first rehearsal. People were recording themselves singing. I was like, why are they doing this? I was totally new to barbershop. I mean, my grandparents sang barbershop, but I had never experienced it before. So I had like a lot of like seemingly stupid questions, but I was just so new to it. And I was just like, right away, they made me feel comfortable that I could ask them any question. So that like really helped me. Yeah, just want to make that comment.
2 minutes.
So Hannah, you've been nodding a lot through all of this. So how old are you?
I am 28, soon to be 29.
Yep, I figured. And what chorus do you sing with?
I'm with the Valley Chords.
Okay, all right. Okay, sorry. Yes, I did know that. And do you want to quickly share your experience of from 0 to 80?
Sure. I've been with the Valley Chords for about 8 years now, and it was also a situation of coming home from school, and actually my mom was like, you need to find something, you need to do something with music. So one of the women from my church sang with the Valley Chords, and she was like, you're coming to an open house. And then I never left after that. And I think we're very small, and we have a lot of options musically in our area, which is, I think, something that we struggle with to get new people in general, but especially a younger demographic. So it's been interesting to hear thoughts, but I agree with so much that you've said as another young person doing this.
Oh, excellent.
I'll say to close sort of, a lot of people think it's really hard to get young women because you're thinking of finding strangers out on the sidewalk, but the young women that you will get to join your chorus are already in your lives. They are your cousins, your nieces, your grandkids friends, you know, think of all the young people in your life and the young people they know and the young people they know. A lot of people don't think of it that way. That's how you grow your barbershop family, really, is you force them. Just kidding.
Absolutely. I want to thank Amanda, who really put this all together, because she's living it. She's living proof of what it's all about. So I'm very grateful for that. And I've always been grateful to have her in the chorus.
Thank you.
Even when she was
Well,
bored.
thank you to Amanda and Gail. Great class. And the evaluation form that you can complete is on the chat site, and you have 10 minutes between classes. Enjoy. Thanks again.
I added
Thank you,
some other
ladies.
fun information because you know me, I can't resist. So check that out too.
Thank you guys.
Thank you, Gail and Amanda. That was great.
Thank you, guys. This was terrific.
Thank you.
Coming.
Thank you.
We did it.
Yeah, good job, my
Good
dear.
job, you two.
Very good job.
I think we should take a few minutes at chorus